Yemen has a long history of scarce water and sustainable management of scarce water. And without this sustainable management, the Yemenis would not have survived the climate and the geography of Yemen. And there are many examples of this. There are very ancient tradition of managing surface water, spate and floods, and there are good urf or tradition for managing springs and what we call ghail, which is a sort of a qanat, if you know qanat, and with using surge irrigation and cisterns, and it was very successful and it was very efficient system. And with the advent and introduction of the tube wells and the motor pump, this really have changed radically because people thought that they have discovered an underground sea of fresh water that is forever. It will never disappear. So they were free to drill anywhere and pump any amount of water without any restriction. And then later on they realized that this resource is also exhaustible and scarce. But I think it's too late because there are so many interests and livelihood has built over these 50 years for farmers, small and big, on unrestricted water use from groundwater. We have really to have a national consensus at the highest level and the lowest level to apply our tradition or modified traditions to apply them to the groundwater from the deep aquifers. And this is, in my opinion, the only way to have any sustainability in the future. Well, it's obvious that Yemen is ridden by conflicts, and many conflicts have different reasons. But for sure, competing for resources, land and water at the top of these resources is a major root cause for conflicts. And the lack of enforcement of the laws and the lack of social equity and awareness of the need for enforcing certain laws and traditions is creating more conflicts. And I think a combination of new adaptive laws and regulations that build on the ancient traditions that have proven to be successful for many thousands of years is the solution for Yemen. And I think the existing law is building on that. The problem is that the existing law is not enforced. And the only way to enforce it is to empower the communities, the local communities, at the local level and at the governorate level to enforce it. Because to expect that the government will enforce the law at every farm and every wadi and every basin is very difficult, especially with the situation that we are in for the economic and political situation that we are in. Well, I will be frank. And a few months ago, 1.5 years ago, we were not working together. And now I think we are working together in a much better way. But we are ambitious in the Ministry of Water and Environment that the Ministry of Agriculture will work with us even more, because I think there are still some deviating visions for the future of water resources in Yemen that we need to smooth out with the Ministry of Agriculture. And as you know, agriculture is using over 90% of the water resource, and without a common vision by the two ministries and support from all other ministries and from the local communities, the future of Yemen is bleak. To make matter even worse, now we are faced with climate change, and the scenario for Yemen are ambiguous and not very clear. But regardless of what will be the scenarios that will happen for climate change in Yemen, water will be even more scarce, and the need for water will be more, and also probably the damage from water will be much more. So we are in a way between a rock and a hard surface, as you say, and we need to really mitigate and adapt for the future. To explain the seriousness of the matter, I remember when I came to Sana'a in 1963, and I was less than 10 years old. The wells, every Sana'ani house has a well for water, and the groundwater level was less than 30 meters. Now, after almost 50 years, we are drilling 1,000 meters, and the drawdown is, as an average, is about between 3 and 12 meters. This is in Sana'a Basin, and Sana'a Basin is not the worst. There are even worse basins in Rada' and in Sa'da. The situation is even worse, and just to demonstrate how badly we managed our groundwater and the immense of the crisis that we are in. And I think what we need is a very urgent matters that we need the government to take, and one of them is to control the drill rigs, because now the drill rigs are like drugs. It gives farmers hope that they will find water and this water will continue. But actually, even the investment that the farmer is doing for drilling is not sustainable, is not financially feasible, because they drill and they spend a lot of money, but within 2 or 3 years they need to drill again. And their investment will never be paid back. And the drill rig owners are going like drug pushers, giving hope for people that we'll drill, we'll find for you water that will not finish, and they are out of control, the drill rigs. And the government, I think, in my opinion, should buy all these drill rigs from the owners and set up a national corporation for drilling. And drilling should be done only under strict supervision of NORA. This is my opinion. And if we do this, we at least stop the bleeding. Khat is a drug. We have to acknowledge that it's a drug. And it is destroying the water resources, but also, in my opinion, destroying the society. And it's an obstacle for any civil development. And in my opinion, also, it's like the water crisis, the Khat crisis. To deal with Khat has to be at the national level and at the highest and lowest level, and it has to be urgent to deal with Khat. And I am realistic. I know that Khat cannot be prohibited or banned. It's a legal drug, but it's a drug anyway. And what we need is to do everything we can do to disincentive the drug use and drug plantation. And this is, we have to use taxation, we have to use alternatives, we have to use the media and the education, and we have to be role model for people. I mean by we, the leaders in the societies, the government ministers, the president, the prime minister, If we stop chewing cud and ask people not to chew cud, ask our sportsmen, writers, to stop chewing cud, to be role model, then we can have a chance for real development and urbanization and civil development. Without that, I'm very skeptical that we can do anything. Yemen and the Yemeni people have a long history of water management tradition, sustainable water management tradition. And now we are trying to apply integrated water resource management. And to do this in a realistic way, we need a lot of information and a lot of new technologies to acquire this information and to manage the information and to make it useful for management decisions. And one of the tools that can be very useful is remote sensing, using satellite imagery to measure evapotranspiration and drought and rain and even temperature. And this will help us in the future make better decisions regarding allocation of water and cropping patterns. All these, with the help of the Dutch government, I think the Dutch government is supporting NORA in this, coupled with the monitoring wells and meteorological stations that are measuring floods in the wadis. All this information that will hopefully be in one network that can be used scientifically in making decisions. And this will lend itself to a lot of work for researchers and for scientists and for students who are doing research. Integrated water resource management require empowerment of the community that's using water. And part of the empowerment is knowledge. If this community know what's happening with their resource, then they can take wiser decisions. That requires a lot of monitoring, a lot of research, a lot of understanding of the water rights and traditions and efficiency, and it creates a lot of opportunities. If we invest in it, it creates jobs. For example, in irrigation, now very little modern irrigation is used, but if the government encourage modern irrigation like poplars and drip, and it can create a whole industry, from manufacturers to engineers who design, to technicians, to laborers who put the pipes in the ground, and like any other thing. I mean, many issues that is you think as a challenge now, it can create opportunities if you are doing the right thing about this challenge. And research and new industries, new activities can be created from this challenge that we are facing.